Hello, hello. Welcome back, or welcome to the Yogi Roth Show. Hope your 2019 is going exactly how you dreamed it to go. For me, it's been a blast so far, about midway through January. And if you've chosen a word of the year, I hope you're staying committed to it. If not, and you're struggling, reach out. Try to give you a couple tools to maybe double down on it and talk to your community about it. See if they can help support you as you're chasing something that clearly matters to you if you've chosen that word of the year. My word of the year is create. I can't wait to create content and share it with you guys, and this podcast is clearly an example of that. I had a chance to talk to John Gordon about it on the first episode of 2019. If you missed it, go check it out. John Gordon, he's special. To me, he's a guy who brings great insight in sport, performance, life, incredible wisdom, and he should. I mean, the guy's one of the best authors in the world. Internationally known best-selling author, written 16 books, got 2 more coming out. He speaks all over the globe. This season he spoke to Clemson, the LA Rams, the Dodgers, and many, many other teams. He's got a lot of wisdom, and I'm really lucky I get to go on his podcast, the Positive You podcast. If you want to listen to that as John interviews me about my word of the year, check it out. I got the link at yogiroth.com as well. And it was a fun conversation. He flipped the script a little bit. Usually I'm asking the questions, but he's like, hey, man, I want to ask you some questions. So I said, sure. So we knocked that out for you guys, and it was a blast to do. Now, speaking of a blast, well, college football season, of course. And now it's over. So I'm kind of bummed a little bit. But we were treated to a national title game that I really enjoyed. And not necessarily because of the score, but because of the quarterbacks. I've known Trevor Lawrence since he was 16 years old with the Elite 11. Same with Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa at Alabama. And all 3 of those quarterbacks have skill sets that are incredible. But their intangibles are off the charts. Which leads me to today's episode. It's with Vince Young and Matt Leinart. Yeah, that's right. The Rose Bowl. You remember that one? The greatest game? I don't even think it's arguable, but I think it's the greatest game in college football. National championship game. Texas takes down USC. Come on, man. Anyway, we had a chance to talk in September, and I've been sitting on this episode, well, clearly for a couple months. And I wanted to wait to share it until it was an appropriate time where we could sit back and listen to it. And there wasn't a lot of other news in college football or the NFL. And you could really reflect on what that game was like in college football, because that's exactly what I did with those 2 former college quarterbacks. Now, both of them are clearly rock stars, both in the College Football Hall of Fame. Both are known all across the country for what they did in college and even the National Football League, and they're also bonded because of a game. And I had a chance to moderate an event in Los Angeles, live audience, with this company called Thuzio. And if you don't know Thuzio, check them out. They put on events all over the country with iconic athletes, and I moderate the majority of them in Los Angeles. And this event was a live audience, and it was lit. It was the week of the USC Texas game. You had people talking trash back and forth. You're going to hear Matt and Vince talk trash back and forth, intermingle with the crowd, and it's really fun. You'll hear my audio will be a little jumbled at times, but I think it's worth the listen because you'll hear gems. You'll hear gems from 2 quarterbacks that were at the height of their position in college football and during an iconic time. There was no social media when they were playing. They got to live their lives, they got to play ball, and they got to lead their respective programs to places that neither program had been ever, let alone in quite a long time. So Matt, I've known him for a long time. He's still the coolest guy I've ever met in my entire life. Being around Vince that night, so special as well. So many lessons these guys share, and you hear the bond between 2 of them. Now both family men with children, and to see them in that light, would you all remember that Rose Bowl and then hear them in this one? I think it's a really enjoyable experience. I had a blast with it. So I'm getting out of the way. If you want more conversations, go to yogiroth.com/podcast. Got a lot of really fun guests. And of course, hit me up on social if you got any ideas at Yogi Roth. But in the meantime, I'm getting out of the way. This is Matt Leinart and Vince Young.
Before we get started, I'm going to introduce our awesome moderator tonight. It's Yogi Roth from Pac-12 Networks. He also has an awesome podcast where he recently interviewed Mac Brown. So if you want to hear more about the game, you can go on to the podcast. Go ahead, Yogi.
He was also a coach on our staff in 2005 as well.
Yes. Well, thank you.
We go way back.
We go way back. We just met earlier tonight. And this night is unique. I mean, there's a lot of juice in this room. I've done a lot of these events. So this is pretty cool. Clearly, it's a decently large week in college football. What are they calling you, Matt?
The trilogy.
The trilogy, right?
For two one-on-one teams, man.
The trilogy. I want to start with you guys, and I'm curious, because when I was preparing for this, I started researching about you, Matt. I've known you for a while, but I looked at both of you and said, okay, wow, they both redshirted. They both balled out as redshirt sophomores in the Rose Bowl and beat Michigan. They both threw for thousands and thousands of yards. They both went to New York City, one won a Heisman, one was a runner-up in the Heisman. You both have won a national championship. You're both actually born only a week apart. I mean, did you realize you had so much?
I didn't know that. When's your birthday?
What?
What do you
May 18th.
May 11th. There you go. Tauruses.
So I'm curious.
Learn something every day, man. You learn something every day.
That's cute. That's cute.
Security.
Did you realize how much you had in common with one another outside of his most historic game in the history of college?
You know, it's interesting. Our relationship. This we joke, but this game has kind of tied us forever. And 12 years later, we're still talking about it. And we just did the interview with you for Pac-12 Network, and Vince and I really had a mutual respect for each other that really throughout college. But that year, when I came back for my senior year, and I had known about Vince, obviously he was unbelievable. And I think as we get older, and at least speaking for myself, as I get older, I really appreciate him more and the friendship that we've been able to keep. You know, even being competitors against each other, we competed against each other in the NFL as well. And I think at the time you don't really understand that because we're young kids and we're just focused on, I was USC, focused at Texas, but it was really fun. It's fun now, obviously. It scarred me for life, And I swear this game haunts me forever. It's like the game haunts me forever, and I'll never get over it. But it's fine, it's fine. But I think as I get older, I just have even more respect for Vince and that game. And you just said the parallels, but yeah, we were able to accomplish a lot in college, and go on to play in the NFL for quite some time. And both family men, both have kids, both married. So it's just cool. It all comes full circle, here now. And we've done a few of these, not for Thuzio, but just a few things like this where we just reminisce and catch up. And it's really fun. I think, there's a lot of diehard Trojans in here, obviously. And I know you probably don't like this guy very much, but it's okay. He is one of the greats.
Hook him.
We gotta hook him. Anyway, so yeah, it's just awesome to be around him.
So you were redshirting when Matt was playing, and he burst out on the scene. Matt's first touchdown pass, some of the Trojan fans might know, and for a touchdown against Auburn. I'm curious for you, when did you start tracking his career? Because for quarterbacks, there is a camaraderie that doesn't get talked about very often.
Well, I mean, as a quarterback, you always want to play against or try to emulate your game to the best. And he was at the top of his game. And a lot of guys, we always respect each other as quarterbacks. We love to see each other be successful, not only just on the football field, but he was doing some good things in the community. His face was all over the place. With kids, I mean, he was doing everything he was being asked. So to me, I didn't have a father figure in my household. So to know that he has his father with him that's teaching him not just about the game of football, it's teaching him things about life, how to become a father, a dad, a brother, a friend. So I saw these things from him from a distance, which a lot of people, I'm a little bit different. To me, I don't care about the accolades and all these things. I care about you as a human, how you carry yourself. And he carried himself really well. So I always tell him that, man, I'm happy to be a part of his career as friends for the rest of our lives, because you don't get that, not with a lot of people out there, because some people are always doing their own thing, which they're supposed to. But for him to take time out to respect me as a person, and it's vice versa, his family, everybody, has always been nice since the Heisman, when we all met that time, with Reggie Bush and everybody. Our family has been keeping in touch, and me and Matt have been keeping in touch as well. So that's awesome.
I love that. Yeah. power of sport is
Let me real quick. The Heisman. So I'll never forget because I was fortunate enough to go back in 2005, and I knew I had no chance of winning. So I was really loving the weekend. It was amazing. I was like having fun. I was loose. I was drinking all this stuff. And this guy and Reggie were like, they were so stressed and so tight, man. I'll never forget. And I don't know if you remember. I'm just like Vince was like, we were just talking, but he was so nervous, and Reggie was nervous too. And that was an incredible race to win. And Reggie had a great year. Vince had a great year. But I'll just never forget those couple days you're there in New York, and you do everything together. The media junkets, I don't know what else we did, but we did everything. We're on a bus, literally the three of us, everywhere for like 2.5 days. And they were I was like living it up, man. I was like, no pressure on me this year. The year before I was sweating, obviously. But that year, anyway, it was just funny.
It was fun.
That was the first time we really met. So
yeah.
So I want to ask about that. We talked to Mac Brown yesterday, your coach and a Hall of Fame inductee this year. He said that after you beat Michigan, the previous year in the Rose Bowl, you went up to him and said, hey, coach, we're going to come back here next year. Matt, my first day at SC was the day you announced you were coming back to USC. For both of you, did you have that vision of Pasadena that early on that was so rock solid? And everybody has it in college football, but you two, it was a reality. There was definite opportunity. SC was talented. You guys were talented. Now, how much was that a goal out there for both of you?
I mean, social media. If we even didn't want to think about it, social media made it for us to think about, for pumping the game up. I mean, we wasn't even close to even playing yet because it was still preseason. Matt and the USC guys, which was doing really good. The record was unbelievable. I mean, they deserved all of the accolades they was getting. And we was like, okay, we won the Michigan games because it was the first time in history that UT has went to a BCS game. So it was a lot of hype was starting to build up, but in the same time, we wasn't focused on that. We was just focused on trying to get back to that point because a lot of people don't understand it is really tough to make it to the Super Bowl, national championship, these type of games. So I think it was our job as quarterbacks to keep everybody humble because when we came back our first spring season to go to spring practice, a lot of guys on our team came in forgot about all Coach Brown rules. Came in with their pants sagging, earrings on, hat turned back, just all the things that Coach Brown didn't want in a team meeting room. He wanted you to sit up straight. He wanted you to be listening, all these type of things. And the guys came in. I had to stand up and say, Coach, I'm sorry to disrespect you while you're talking, but I need to point some things out. And I start pointing at all our leaders and the people on our team, like, Coach asked us not to come here in earrings. You got on earrings. Coach asked you to walk in with your pants up, with your shirt tucked in. Coach asked you to not slouch in your chairs like this. He asked you to sit up straight when he's talking. I seen all this, so I had to point it out. And I said, man, listen, guys, we only won one game. We got to keep going. Y'all satisfied with that game. I'm not. So I kind of made I had to keep, again, being a leader is tough, man. You got to keep everybody humble because once you get big-headed, that's when you get your ass whooped.
Good job. And SC had won 2 straight. You were a projected top 2 draft pick, and you choose to come back. I'll never forget it with your cargo pants on, your white T-shirt.
God, what was I thinking, man?
I mean, this is the coolest dude still I've ever met in my entire life. But when you came back, SC was on the verge of something historic. It had never been done before, still has never been done.
So it's funny, so I'll tell the story. So in that time, I came back to school. It was important to me to come back, and for a few different reasons. But when I was getting ready to make that decision, I'll never forget Steve Clarkson. You know Steve well. He was my quarterback coach since I was little, and still a close friend of mine. And when I made that decision, he was in the process of helping me make that decision. And I lived at the Caribbean, so anyone who went to USC knows the bean. Yeah. You don't really want to know what it is. It was like picture Melrose Place, but like bikes and everything just thrown in the pools. It was a disaster. So I lived there for a semester. Actually, right after I won the Heisman, I'd lived there in this shithole for like 6 months with Braun and those guys, you know. And I actually shared a room with a buddy that's like going in. So I'm coming back from my senior year, thinking all this glorious. Now it was not like that. The outfit I was wearing, which is just awful, when I think my hair was so long and also I didn't even have an iron. I remember trying to iron my shirt on my couch, like walking over to do that press conference. It was a disaster that whole day. And now I see with these decisions, they're all like suit and tie. It was a different day. Anyways, that was a funny story leading up to that. But what did you say? I forgot. What did you say? Three-peat pressure. Okay, so I think like Vince said, for us, we were in a little different space. We had just won 2 championships in a row, and that third year was the toughest year, just I remember, because you're obviously taking everyone's best shot, but to win and win at a high level and win every single week, no matter who you play, is so freaking hard, man. It is just, I don't care how good your team is. Though, and I talk about it in my job now, just you see upsets. It's really hard to get up for every team, every game, no matter who you play. And fortunately, Pete Carroll was great at getting us just ready. We had great leadership on our team. But humility and staying humble is hard, you know, because you're used to winning, never used to losing. So when we lost or win a game, it was like it was interesting because we lost to Cal in 2003, and then we didn't lose again. Bears, I mean Cal Bears, what are we talking about? And then we didn't lose again, obviously, till we played Vince. But I'll tell you what, there was, I mean, you know, the Bush Push, the Notre Dame game, there's even the Fresno State game. Like, there was a lot of times where I was like, Fresno in the house, okay. They had a great team. You know what? That's still one of the games that I get asked about the most is still that game, the Fresno State game. It's interesting. I guess it's just, you know, it was really difficult and a challenging year in 2005 getting to that Rose Bowl. And there were a couple times where I didn't know if we would do it. You know, every Saturday you're playing. Obviously, the Notre Dame game. There was a couple other games that year. But it was really hard to get to that point. And to sustain that type of success was great to be a part of. But I just remember how exhausting. I always tell the story, but the Notre Dame game, you know, after that game, obviously, super emotional game. And I remember so many of our teammates like crying post game, and not even crying because they were so emotionally drained, like just like, you know, the one tear that falls, like, you know, like a child, like just the one tear. But like I remember Steve Smith. Steve Smith was crying, and we just won, but like it was just so emotionally taxing for us, and like we were just like deep breath, you know, like, wow, man, this is like really hard, you know, to do. So, and then we ended up, you know, playing them, and we knew how difficult of a challenge that was going to be, obviously, and it was.
So before we get to the game that we all want to talk about, I want to go back to that Notre Dame game. And I remember, obviously, being there with you, and then afterwards, and it was an exhale moment. It was the first time at SC there was ever a players-only meeting, and I remember eavesdropping on it, and it wasn't a good meeting. Like, it was offense versus defense. We had issues, but what I loved was when I learned about Texas. You guys win a game, and Darryl Royal's about to talk to the team in the locker room that same week, and supposedly your team is holding around a small little TV watching SC play. And the story that I hear is you wanted them to win because you're like, hey, we're going to go to the Natty. We want to play the team that has won 2 in a row. Is that accurate? And what was that scene like?
I mean, you want to play the best. You want to play the best. So, you know, we have some guys on our team, some characters, some funny people. So, I mean, you know how they do the NFL Hard Knocks. I wish them guys would have had more cameras in our locker room that year. You know, the character funny guys that we had. But, you know, after that game, we had just won our last game. And Coach Royal, you know, let him rest in peace. But we wanted to talk to the guys, but we was like, it was so disrespectful to me. I was like, that's a Hall of Famer. We got to go in here and listen to Coach. But everybody was like, no, let's go see what USC doing. Because we want to play the best. We excited to play the guys and all of the above. But, you know, just to see how bad the guys wanted to play the best. And, you know, Madden and USC was the best, and you always want to play the best. So it's just a lot of respect of the hard work these guys put in to be at that position they was in.
So you guys are in New York City, and it's the Heisman Trophy, and Reggie Bush has announced the winner. Legend has it that you're pretty frustrated, and you decide that you're going to call on your teammates and say, hey, man, tell the boys to get it right. I'm about to take them down. You're already.
That doesn't surprise me.
You're already in the natty. Did you need any more motivation? What did you notice from your team after you made that call when you returned in Austin?
I mean, I was devastated in tears, not only bringing the trophy home for, my individual goals that I had for myself, but just for the entire state of Texas, as well as my teammates, because a lot of time everybody look at it as an individual a trophy, but that's really, a lot of team got you to that point as well. So, the first thing I did was call one of our leaders. They was all in the room like this, in our team meeting room, watching the Heisman show on TV. And I was really upset, didn't want to talk to the media, but Coach Brown, the guy that he is, Vince, I know you're upset. But I know you're mad, but you got to be professional. You got to go out and talk to the media, tell how you felt. Give Rich his congratulations, do what you got to do, and then we'll see the guys in January. That's how Coach talk. So after I wiped my tears up, I went in and did my professionals, got on the mic and, talked and told them how I really felt. And then after I got off, I asked John Bianco, our communication relations guy, I was like, can I borrow your phone? Because I don't have my phone. My wife had it at the time. So let me call Rod Wright, because he has everybody's number. So call Rod Wright, let me talk to him. I'm like, bro, go in there and tell the guys that I'm freaking pissed right now. Tell them to quit playing around and go get that together and let's go to California and win the ball game. So that's how it happened. It really did happen like
man.
that. Yeah. We got some stories. We can go on that all day.
So to take you guys to USC's campus for a minute, the year that Matt decides to return and USC is in the national title, it was Bieber-esque. Bieber-esque. I mean, Matt, you and Reggie had security.
I love you, Yogi. I love you. No, not the class.
We had thousands, I would say, between 500 and 1,000 people on average would be at practice, because Coach Carroll's philosophy was, hey, let's make it feel like a game. And it was open practice. Many of you probably found yourself there at times. The night before the game, curious, when you're laying in bed and it gets quiet, and no longer is it cameras, security guards, or fans, but it's just you, and you're on your way to win a third straight title as a starting quarterback. The reason you came back, I'm sure one of the goals was this. What was that like in there?
That's a good question. It's so funny. I remember the UCLA game where I was horrible. I don't know. So I was the game before, obviously 4 or 5 weeks before. It was senior day at Coliseum, so it was really emotional for me, just, the years and the experiences. And I was like a wreck, crying before the game. Like, I started like 0 for 8. It was just horrible. I couldn't hit a receiver from me to you. And I heard Pete was like, after the game we won, Pete was like, hey, dude, like, you're going to have to get your shit together for the national championship. Like, I remember he said that. He's like, oh, and then we're going to the game day. And he's like, are you all right today? Are you going to be? I said, Coach, I'm good. The night before the game, I think it's pretty routine. I mean, it's the biggest game of your life, but if you treat it that way, that's when I think you don't end up playing the way you want. So I think we always treated it as best as we could as a normal game. And actually, in the lead up, I'm sure Vince would say the same thing. All the hype and all the distractions, it's really, we just want to play the game. We want to focus on the game. So the game day is the best part. You're ready to play. You put in the 4 or 5 weeks of preparation. At that point, you're tired of practicing against your guys again. You just want to go play. And I just remember probably being fine. Probably a little nerves on that day just because it's the big game. But we had played in that before. We'd been on that stage before. So we did feel like we had an advantage in that sense as far as the preparation and just the stage, because Texas hadn't. They played in the Rose Bowl, which I remember watching Vince against Michigan, but the national championship's obviously a whole nother level. So like any other game is really, I think, you've been in so many of them, fortunately, that you go out there and you play ball like you know how. So.
Yeah, and unfortunately with us, our fans were so crazy in our hotel, we had to move to another location. But we love our fans. Thank our Longhorns. It was like, who is that downstairs talking about Texas? Fight. I'm like, dude, we got to get some rest to play tomorrow. So we had to move to a whole nother hotel the night before the game. So It was crazy.
Vince, I remember walking out of the field. I was 23 at the time, 22, 23, and I think I looked around. I'm like, I thought I was going to get the Natty every year of my life. Like, here's the young coach. Curious for you, because Matt had been into national championship environments. When you walk down to that field, it's different at the Rose Bowl in general. You felt that the prior year. But for the title, when you look up and you saw the Cardinal and gold and, of course, the burnt orange, was it different for you, or were you just clicked in? Let's go.
Yeah, it's different for me. I'm from a family, a low poverty family, from the hood, from Hispanic and black growing up. Ain't no way hell I was supposed to have been playing that. I was supposed to be the starting quarterback because of the adversity, the obstacles that I went through as a kid, being broke, seeing my mom strung out on drugs, seeing my dad never there in jail, seeing people stealing from us, people shooting at us. At my uncle, he got shot and fell in the house. We had to call 911 to save him. Stuff that I saw as a kid. To overcome all that type of stuff, to be the quarterback of the University of Texas at that time, to lead them to a championship, it was a blessing for me. A blessing. So, I was soaking it all in, I was soaking it all in, all the hard work that me and my teammates went through to get to that point, because, well, we was always doubted as a Texas Longhorn. We was always the underdogs. Our strength coach was always called soft. Coach Brown was always, he couldn't do it. He couldn't always get over that hump. We had so many obstacles as a team for us to overcome all of those obstacles 2 years in a row and to finish it with a national championship. It was just a blessing, man. It was a blessing because it wasn't easy. Yeah, it was a blessing. Well, I'll take that luck any day. I'll take that any day.
So let's get to the game. I'm curious if we just stay in the first half for a moment here. Matt, for you, what was it like to get going again? Because it felt as though I can remember watching. I was up in the booth next to Kif and Rocky Seto and down the field, and we got a cast of stars that had already been in that environment. It felt early on in the game like it was old hat for us. And I'm curious for you on your sideline, for that first quarter, you withstand a couple punches, and then you guys come roaring back in that second quarter. I'm curious in the first half what it was like for the two respective quarterbacks.
We actually started a little slow the opening series, and then I think that's when we punted and we got the fumble. That was they 3 and out or 4 and out, whatever, and then we punted, and that was the first big break of the game, the turnover, and we marched down and we scored. Lendell scored that game, so we started early, and then. We weren't clapping at the end, Okay. I'm kidding. But it was. I'm just kidding. But it was. It was. We knew going into that game that we had to score 40 to 50 points. I think I was telling someone out there today we had to score over 40 points to win. That's what we felt. And that was no disrespect to our defense, but that was just much respect to him and that offense. And we knew how good they were. So to start fast was key for us. And we didn't really start that fast. We did score that touchdown. I think they were up at halftime. The second half is when we took off as an offense. And unfortunately, they took off as an offense too, and obviously made that stop in the end. But it was just kind of going out there. And, the first series or two, you're a new opponent. You're trying to kind of figure out what they're going to do. You make audibles, adjustments, all those things, and then you kind of get into a rhythm as the game gets going.
What was halftime like for your team? You're up 16-10.
Oh, man, just, again, trying to get everybody to stay calm. Coach Brown is a phenomenal coach, man. He knows exactly what he's doing. So it was tough. It was tough just trying to keep people, I know we're excited. None of us never been in this position before, going against the best team. And we had a lead. So it was more so in the locker room, people were excited. Pumped up, let's go do this, let's go finish. And it was more so Coach Brown, like, okay, everybody calm down. It's 0-0, actually. Yeah. We had to start it all back over again because don't forget who we playing, who they got over there. So, Coach Brown did a phenomenal job of just, trying to keep guys calm because everybody was excited at halftime.
Yeah, and it was an electric second half. I want to jump to the fourth quarter and show a clip. And Matt, for me at least, this is what I was like, it's a wrap. I'm curious what your thoughts are after we watch this film.
Actually, I was surprised we got the playoff. It was almost delay a game. I don't know if you saw that. You know what? I think at that, that was a game that I was never comfortable until it was over. You know, because we knew how special he was, and I can't reiterate that enough. We knew that offense was explosive, and we felt a little bit comfortable. We had a two possession lead. But I just knew we just had to control the ball. You know, we couldn't give it back to them, and we were, the fourth down and 1 play, or the 4th and 2 play where we got stopped decided the game in that moment. So, but I never felt comfortable knowing, and I knew after they scored and then we didn't get that, I had a feeling it was over. You know, unless we had enough time on the clock to have a chance. But I was like, we just couldn't stop them. You know, it was one of those things. It just sucked, man. Like, it just he was unbelievable. It really, and the team, but Jamal Charles and
right.
God, they were loaded, and it was incredible.
So Texas takes a timeout prior to that 4th and 2. Were you on the sideline in that timeout, in that huddle, when they decided to bring pressure on that play that Matt just talked about? When your defense huddles up,
Oh no!
Stop on the defense.
No, I was always stand back, far to the side. I'm pretty sure we all quarterbacks can way away from the team because we thinking, but we also watching the game and supporting our defense. Like, come on, baby, make the stop. So I was more off always to the side, to the far end by myself, just always thinking.
I love it. All right, well, we're trying to do it to all the Trojan fans, but let's show that one.
Especially for the other guy over there talking around.
So two things on that play. Always asked, why was Reggie on the sideline is why I always get asked that. And why did you run that play? The answer, I don't know the answer to the first question. I really don't. But that was like it was just power play. And we had ran that play 5 or 6 times of that game for like 60 yards. We gashed them on that play.
On that one play.
And we had a great offense line, and we just knew with Lendell White, who was 240, 250, he was a stud, that all we had to do was get 1.5 yards, 2 yards, and we would win. And so I always tell people that play, we went 4th down earlier in the game, going in, and we scored on an 8-yard run. That play, literally, we averaged 8 yards a carry on that play in that game. So even with the 11,000 guys right there, but they made this. That's football, game of inches, And
so. We was all on the Texas sideline. Yes, Reggie not in the game.
Well, Yogi, wait, Yogi was a coach. Let's ask Yogi why Reggie wasn't. You were up in the box.
I was, and that year, in that personnel grouping, on that play, we were 100% in that yard. So if you know anything about coaching, or Coach Carroll specifically, it was we're not going to change and make things up when we get to the game. So nobody flinched. It wasn't even a thought oh my God, Reggie's in it. It was hey, let's bring this personnel grouping in. It was whatever, base 21, and away we went with the play. And clearly didn't work out. But I bring that up because now there's 2:09 left in the game. And this is what you may have dreamt of when you were growing up. If you did get this opportunity, so a lot of quarterbacks dream of the opportunity with the ball in their hands. Take us through the huddle and take us through that moment when you take the field and lead what eventually becomes a 10-play game winning drive.
Well, like Matt just said, we have been in that situation a couple times. Some comeback games, or we could have blew our season against Oklahoma State that year. We was down 28-7, and we came back and won the game. So we have been in that position. Just to hear a lot of my teammates, from Jonathan Scott, his offensive tackle for us, just a lot of guys from before I even stepped into the huddle, the guys was already saying it. Don't try to be Superman. Don't try to do nothing outside your character. Just do everything that we've been coached, and we'll win the game. So I didn't have to really say too much when I walked into the huddle because the guys was already calm. It was mostly what you always hear, as quarterbacks. When you step in the huddle, everybody's watching you. So don't go in there nervous eyes or everything, because your team is looking at you. So they want to know how you feel, and they're going to perform the same way. So I try to stay as calm if I could, because I was nervous as shit. So, and I tell people all the time this story. All the people talking about the run in the end zone. The hardest thing is catching the snap. He can vouch for this, because you're nervous, you got jitters, you're reading the defense, and the hardest thing is because of your center. Sometimes he gets nervous. He would throw that thing back there pretty hard.
Was Lyle?
Lyle would do that a couple times.
My center in Arizona was his center at Texas. Yeah, go figure.
So sometimes he get nervous, and he's supposed to do a little regular snap, but he shoots it back there pretty hard, and that's when the ball go all over the place. So I'm thinking in my head like, V, just catch the damn ball. And then the rest was history. Coach Pete Carroll, I messed with him a lot of times when I was playing. We played Pete a lot in the NFL. I always give him a hard time. The funny part about it, he beat me. He beat me when I was in Philly. The first thing he said, "I finally got you, VY." But he ran that same blitz, that weak side blitz that we saw so many in the NFL. That same blitz, but he ran it a couple times in the game, and I just seen a lane, and it just took off from there.
Coach Brown called the play for me the other day. He said it was gun left, Jack, maybe.
Yep.
And I'm curious, was there any doubt? Like, did you even go through your progression?
Yes, I did. Actually, I was trying to get the first down with David Thomas, just to get the first, because we was more so thinking run the clock out. But it didn't happen like that. So, the guy drove in on the play. If I would have threw it, that would have been an interception, actually. And I came back to check the ball down to Selman Young, and in that weak side blitz, they always drop it at the end. He dropped just right in the flat route, but he left that lane open for me, and I just took that lane right there to the end zone.
Let's take a look at that. Rub it in.
I didn't know y'all was doing all this shit. David Thomas out there?
Somebody tackle him. What's so amazing is that iconic play, you got to hand the ball to the official, 2-point conversion. What's going through your body after you score? Are you that connected to the moment? Are you ready to just kind of explode? And then for you, okay, there's some ticks left on the clock. What's going through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, you just got to stay humble. What Coach Brown said. Come on, guys. Listen, that's how you talk. And that's in your head. Guys, stay humble. Act like you've been here. Act like you've been here. Stay calm. That's Coach Brown. When you have a good boss, good coach, and it engraves in your head, like any other player, if your coach wasn't putting that in your head, they would have threw the football in the end zone, did flips, did all kinds of stuff. But we had a coach that he didn't teach us that way. He taught us about character and respect and sportsmanship. So that was all in my mind. Like, just hold on to the ball. I know Coach about to ask go for 2. So, just stay in the moment. Then after the game, that's when you can do all your excitement and fun. But in the moment of the time, that would have cost us a penalty, would have got us, it would have made it tough for us. So you got to understand where Coach is coming from as a young man, as you grow, especially as a quarterback. We got to be a little bit different. We got to be coaches too, right? Yep.
The belief in our team at SC was like, just give us any amount of time we could win. I'm curious your thoughts. They got to kick it off. We had time for 2 plays.
Right.
Yeah. that was probably the first. That's when I knew. To go 80 yards in 2 plays and
almost got it with 1 where Reggie got that ball.
Yeah, and against that defense, which was a great defense, they had a lot of great players. I knew at that point. I actually knew. I felt in my mind, if he got the ball back with 2 minutes, I just felt like it was going to be a challenge for us because he was so good and their offense was so good. So I don't know how much time we had, like 30 seconds or 20. Like to go 80 yards in 2 plays it was difficult, with the good pass rush and all that. So it was tough going back out there. That was one time where I felt like the Notre Dame game, we had 2 minutes, a minute and a half. I knew we had enough time to make something happen. This game, I just felt like we left it all out there. We had no chance, at that moment.
So speaking of leaving it all out there, celebration, there's the iconic photo with the confetti. Matt, you're walking up the field. There's a photo of that too. Curious? Maybe that's why you've got many of those, thankfully. But you go to the locker room with Reggie to go do what?
Well, we just talked about it, but that I remember right after the game, they stick the camera in your face and they want to do the post-game interview on the field. And I had said, basically we were the better team. I thought we were the better team, and I didn't give the respect to them at the time. It was emotional, and that's not how I was as a player. Just, you get caught up in the emotions. We've all been there. And I just remember I took a lot of crap for that. But after the game, Reggie and I, and that wasn't the reason why we went. We just went over, and we went over to the locker room, and we saw Mac, Brown, and Vince, and just gave them the respect that they deserved, in that game. And then an iconic game like that, it was we knew the impact that game had at the time, and obviously the impact it still has in college football. But it was just talk about sportsmanship and just giving the respect where it was due at the time, and they deserved to beat us, And I say they were by far and away the better team on that night, and they deserved to win the championship. And it couldn't have happened to a better dude, man. It really couldn't have. So I'm happy for them. It's tough. But as you get older, and we joke, we laugh, but I'm happy to be tied to him forever through that game. It's awesome. So.
We're going to open it up to the crowd in a second, but I want to finish with you guys. When did you realize? Was it, I think you went to Carl Jr. after the game.
I did. I did.
Vince, I read that you went to sleep because you were so exhausted after.
Tired.
When did you guys realize? Was it when you woke up? Was it years later? Was it last year prior to SC Texas? When did you realize this was such an iconic game in the history of an entire sport?
I'm still learning. So, that's why I love doing these type of events, because you get to interact with people. Where they was the night of. I had a story of a guy, he was at war fighting for us, still had his little radio in the hole, people shooting at him, listening to the damn game, That's how amazing it is just to hear the stories where everybody was at.
Right.
And even though we, the stuff that we went through, it made us excited and it made us feel good in life, but we also made a lot of people in the world by our playing football, and it brought a lot of happiness to a lot of people. So this is why I love playing the game. That's why I love being around this dude and being around people like this, because that's what it's all about.
Couldn't say any better. I think as you get older, you do realize, and my job is in college football, so I get to talk about it for a living. And as I've gotten older, I've really learned to appreciate that game more and more. It's tough, lose, and you make jokes about it, but it really, I think, impacted the game. Like Vince said, it impacted a lot of people in a positive way, and that's what football is to me. It brings a lot of happiness to people, and it brings people together, and I think it's the ultimate team game in the world. It's the only game where you need, 11 players every single play doing their job at the same time. It's really incredible. So it took me a while to really appreciate what happened, and to be a part of, I think, the greatest game in history of college football. There's been some great ones, but I think if you look at just the build-up and the players and the Heisman and just all of the things that went into that game, it'll go down as the greatest, in my opinion. And to be a part of that and then to appreciate it, it's really been remarkable. And Vince and I have done a lot of, not for Thuzio, but just a lot of these types of things where we get a chance to really go back and reminisce about the game. We talk about the memories. We walked the Rose Bowl Stadium twice, which it's really cool because it's still being talked about. And for us to kind of represent our teams and our institutions, it's awesome. So we couldn't be happier to be here with you guys. Obviously, this is really cool. I know we're in LA and USC territory, but as you could tell from Vince is a great guy. And we've really had a great friendship from 06 to now, and we will, and it's been awesome. So thanks for having us too. This is great.
Before we turn it over to you guys, I just want to say for everybody who has children, and for the kids that are in the audience, we love these guys for how they played in one of the most iconic games in the world. But just getting to know Vince a little bit tonight, and Matt, I've known you for a long time now. They're such incredible role models for your children or the youngsters here tonight beyond the football field. So, fellas, thanks for taking the time.
So the first question actually comes from our friends at JP Morgan Chase. Nathan, you're a lucky man. I see you're already ready to go. So,
Is this thing on?
yeah.
What was the biggest perk of being a quarterback at USC and Texas?
Whoa. We're going to have to... we have to do another show?
You want to go first?
Man, I mean...
I will say this about being here in USC. Because there were no, and Yogi could speak to this as well, being there, but there was no NFL team at the time. Obviously, the Raiders and the Rams were gone, and we were. No offense to UCLA. My wife is here. She went to UCLA too, but they were terrible at the time. And we got another Bruin right here. But we were really like kind of the team of LA. So we could go anywhere and be treated like, we were an NFL team and players. Like we used to go just, obviously USC, you don't go out because there's nowhere to go there. You had the 901 Club Bar, we all know, which is a terrible place. It was amazing, but it's terrible. But there's no, you can't walk around USC. You don't want to go half a mile either way, or else you're in a bad part of town. So if we had a big night out, we'd go to Hollywood, obviously, and it wasn't as often as people thought. But we were treated like royalty there at 18, 19 years old. Underage in the club, and that happens all the time. But in that time when the club thing was really going off, Yogi. So that was, hey, Yogi was the same age. He was the same age. But that was a great perk when you're young and getting to go out. So
Man.
That was a good answer, right? That was a PC answer.
Y'all waiting on me? Yeah. Oh, I thought that's all they needed to hear right there. Yeah, it was just fun, man. It was just fun. It was fun. It was fun.
That's a good answer. We'll take one from the audience in the glasses. Go ahead.
It was fun.
But I can honestly say the alumni, they take so much care of you after football. That is amazing. I love that. Each and last player, if they want to get in real estate, if they want to get in any kind of whatever business, we have an alumni that's killing the game right now in that profession, and he takes his time or she takes her time out her schedule to mentor. I really do love that about my university, so I appreciate that. So.
Two statements. Matt, you're the heart of the Trojans. When you stayed for your 5th year, that's what it's about. Vince, thank God we didn't vote for the Heisman after the Rose Bowl. Right? But my question is, and we skipped over this, was what went through your head pre-lateral? Because I saw that, man. You were down. You were down. Okay? We're about to go 3 scores. I want to hear that.
Do we have that play on there?
They didn't review either of that number.
I know.
Well, again, I'm not a referee, so y'all talking to the wrong person. Y'all asking the wrong person.
Ladies and gentlemen, Vince Young and Matt Leinart.